As an author on roach fishing, I'm often asked about books on roach fishing. I'm going to take you through my collection. There's only about one book I haven't got, which is a sort of a cartoon strip book by Tony Wheeldon, which is very cheap. And if you want it, go and find it. But these are the proper roach books now. The earliest book I've got is The Book of the Roach by Greville Fennell. The first edition dates back to 1870. This is the second edition from about 1884. It's got poisonous covers because it's probably got arsenic in the green dye. It's a very good little book. It's not very big, but it's very comprehensive, very interesting from a historical point of view. It talks about using horsehair for hook lengths at a time when gut was newfangled. It's a very expensive book. Even a second edition is often £300 nowadays, but there is an electronic version online if you look for it. So The Book of the Roach, Greville Fennell, look for it online because you'll be very lucky to find an actual print edition. The Trent Otter wrote a book about roach as well, although it's about roach, bream and rudd, called Roach and Bream Fishing in Many Waters. The full title is Roach, Rudd and Bream Fishing in Many Waters, and that dates to 1905. I don't think there's an electronic version of this one, and it's quite expensive and quite hard to find, but it's a tremendous book, very interesting roach book. If you can get one, try and find it. In the 1920s and 30s, an angler who called himself Faddist, Edward Ensom, wrote a book on roach fishing called Angling for Roach. That dates to the 1920s. That's the first edition. By the second edition it became Roach Fishing. This is the third edition from 1949. It's quite a nice little book. That third edition is quite easy to find, not that expensive. Second edition is quite expensive. It's got red paper covers. I did have a copy. I've got rid of it and wish I hadn't. But it's not a very big book, but it covers the basics. Quite interesting for the time. One book that looks promising, The Expert Roach Fisher by W Gosling, dating from the 1930s. Quite expensive and hard to find. This is a tatty one, but it's very, very basic. If you come across one in a junk shop for £1, buy it, but don't spend £50 on one. Just not worth it. The next major work was This Fishing, or Angling Arts and Artifices, by Captain Parker, known as Skipper Parker, who was based on the Hampshire Avon near Downton. He ran the pub there, the Bull, and he did all sorts of scientific experiments. He had what he called a water telescope to see underwater. He took temperatures every day, noted his catches, had some tremendous catches, up to over £100 a roach, with 7 2-pounders a couple of times. There's two versions, a first edition 1948 and a later second edition, which was just after he died in 1960. The second edition is probably the better one, although the first one's got all sorts of quirky little cartoons and ditties and things in it. But definitely try and get hold of the second edition. Not that expensive, reasonably priced. Just look out for that one. We then jump forward quite a long time to 1972, I believe. Carl Forbes, Successful Roach Fishing. He was a terrific illustrator, very good writer. This is probably one of his finest works. He wrote a couple of good books about small stream fishing, but this roach fishing is definitely worth looking out for. Not too bad a price, usually £30 or £40. Look for that one. Very well known roach angler and all-rounder and writer, John Bailey. This is probably one of his best books, Roach the Gentle Giants, contributions from others. came out in around about 1987. Certainly his most sought after book. It was very, very rare, but now with a reprint in around about 2000 and something, it's not quite so rare, and instead of paying £50 or £60 you can often get copies for under £20. It's a very nice book from Crowwood, one to look for. I originally started writing my Big Roach book in around about 1999 or 2000, and it was called The Magic of Roach. That book never got published. It's pretty rough. I've got it in loose binders somewhere. I was talking to John Searl at the time, who just opened a shop called The Art of Angling in Ringwood, and when he realised that maybe I wasn't getting anywhere with my roach book, although that was to change, he said he was going to do a book about chalkstream roach. Some idea of the calibre of the illustrations on the back there, where he got photos of each of us. People like Dave Howes himself, Vic Bayer, one or two others, Dave Stewart there. Very nice book, very interesting book, very specialised book, with about 8 or 9 chapters each of about 7,000 or 8,000 words really. He only printed about 1,000, so it's out of print. You will have to look hard to find a copy because most people hang on to them, and they're often £50 or £60, but a nice book. Around about the time that John Searle's book came out, maybe a little bit before, Mark Everard brought out the complete book of the roach, which I always think is a sort of roach fishing book wrapped around a scientific doctorate on roach. There's a lot of science in there. Some of it's useful to the roach angler if you want to look up diseases and a bit about their life cycles. Other bits seem short. There's not much good stuff on hybrids, which I would have expected. It's a huge book. It's over 400 pages. It's still in print from Medlar, reprints about £25. Some of the roach anglers I've spoken to have said they struggled to get through it, and I've struggled to get through it. It's useful for a reference book for the science sides to a point, but maybe not on the hybrids, mainly because the world's moved on a bit with DNA testing. Take it or leave it, I suppose. Mark did a follow-up called Redfin Diaries with Cocky Bondo books, a beautifully produced book, colour all through, nice paper, but they've struggled to sell it. It's now about half price, around about £12.50 from Cocky Bondo books. This one, I don't know what to say about it really. Sometimes it seems a little bit too easy in this book. It just turn up, fish this magic method, this rod, this rig, and you'll pull out a big roach to your heart's content. Oh, were it so easy. Finally, I've got my own 2 books, Big Roach and Big Roach 2. Big Roach is now out of print. You'll have to look hard on eBay. The dealers, when they occasionally get hold of them, I think Cocky Bondo sold a couple in the last few months at over £120. My stock has gone. This is just my own copy. Big Roach 2 is still in stock at calmproductions.com, £25. If you missed out on the first one, at least get the second one. They're 2 totally different books, complementary to each other, so they cover different rivers, different waters, different anglers. Probably the cream of the crop is in the first one, but this one's still pretty good, and it's high quality paper and very enjoyable.